Hello everyone, my name is Tommy and welcome back to Studio Sense. So fall is still kind of on its way. It's still hot as a stove's eye outside. Today's going to be supposedly get about 90 some degrees. And I'm in the upper eastern part of Tennessee, which is historically this part of Tennessee has had really nice weather, very temperate or whatever the word is for it, for kind of being medium. So we kind of get the best of all the seasons, but this year it has been scorchingly hot. The kind of descriptions that I'm making for fall weather has to do with like sweater weather, or like tooling around in your favorite hoodie, your favorite sweater, your favorite long sleeve shirt, something like that. Not the kind of weather that we have right now. Hopefully that'll change in about a month or so. I'm hoping that like in the middle of October towards November, we're going to start getting that preternatural bite that we have in the morning that we typically don't have, and that's kind of like heralding real and actual fall that we're used to coming. So looking forward to that change in weather. It's one of those rare occasions where Mother Nature changes clothes without waiting on our opinion, and she definitely has a thing for yellows and oranges. I live near the oldest town in Tennessee called Jonesboro. You might have heard of it with the National Storytelling Festival. It's pretty big there. It's been on the radio and news and things like that. The town itself is part of a bygone era. It's kind of one of those blink and you miss it, kind of halcyon days type of town where they've left a lot of the rustic and aging buildings. They've done some renovations, the birthplace of Andrew Jackson. But during fall, they lined the lampposts lining Main Street with pumpkins and those teepee-like decorations that come together with the Indian corn and stover. It sparks the anticipatory nostalgia and subsequent merchandising that seems to surround holidays like Thanksgiving and Halloween especially. It's one of those lovely blink and you miss it downtowns of a bygone era. So I love just driving through, slowing down just a little bit, trolling, taking in the sights and thinking about family and friends and anticipating all the good times to come, but also how some things kind of shift and change just on the edge of our perception sometimes, just like fall. It made me think of fragrances that are like that evoke that a nostalgia or ephemeral, transitory, fleeting, changing from one thing, like notes that blend together and change from one thing into another. Only often they grow into something equally, if not more worthwhile than what they were before, like some fragrances can do. And that's why today's Studio Sense is revealing its top 5 fall fragrances. As I mentioned, it's still really hot outside, but soon people will be breaking out their hot chocolate, their sweaters, hoodies, what I like to call curl up by the fire type of weather. They'll be getting their chimneys cleaned in preparation for changing weather. This is the kind of fall that I'm referencing in this review. The kind of weather that's evocative of warm vanilla, spicy tonka. And by the way, if I say tonka or tonka bean a lot, I used to play with Tonka toys as a kid. Maybe that's kind of a clue as to why I like that word or that phrase so much. So you'll have to forgive me. But it's also great note in reference to fragrances. But again, with colder weather, you have the more darker, more kind of incensey or amber type notes that are built into fragrances, tobacco-y aromas that are appropriate for fireside conversations and hayrides. Because of the darker, woodsy incense fragrances that are fall fragrances, they tend to have a bit more staying power in the longevity department. But on the flip side, you have to kind of be careful of overuse. Overuse can result in that scent confusion or cloying feeling, not necessarily for you, but the people around you. There's a phrase I'll always remember my mother used is, "Oh, good grief. They must have taken a bath in their cologne." And you know those people, and I've been guilty of being one of them. They go, psh, walk outside thinking, oh, people are going to love me, and they end up choking to death, or asthmatics, go into convulsions within 10 feet of us. There's a saying I like to keep in mind for those darker fragrances, that is, 1, 2 spray, they will hear what I say. 3, 4 spray might turn them away. Keep in mind your audience during your fall festivities as to where you're going and what you're going to be doing, what kind of activity you're going to be involved in, as to how much you just pump onto your body, parts of your body that you want to carry that fragrance or have that nice sillage trail and not create like this huge bubble of get away from me. I am a scent monster. Yes, fall fragrances can kind of skate on the very edge of winter fragrances, but they're more like long sleeve or sweater fragrances, not parka fragrances. Of the elusive and ephemeral nature of fall, Robert Frost once wrote, "Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief." So dawn goes down today, nothing gold can stay. Pony Boy! I don't know if you remember reading the book or watching the movie Outsiders, but that poem was referenced. And it talks about the as I mentioned, the kind of transitioning or transitory state of one thing as it begins moving into another state. And since most of those kids or people that were involved in the story were also teenagers, meaning that they're transforming from teenagers or tweens into adults, just like the weather often transforms from one into another, and how it's just a fleeting or momentary situation, which is kind of angsty and nostalgic and sad. And so fragrances can often be that way too, and fragrances can evoke a sense of wonderment, a sense of change, a sense of, and that can be sad sometimes, but it also can be very discovering, very positive, very upbeat. And that's kind of where we're wanting to head with our fragrances. So we want to be on the positive side, not the negative side. So while Robert Frost said nothing gold can stay, it's obviously he never met Paco Rabanne, nor the fragrance 1 Million Lucky. Starting off, our number 5 pick of fall fragrances is 1 Million Lucky, Paco Rabanne. This gold-colored juice is an excellent fall fragrance. It's very incense-oriented. Primary notes of Lucky are hazelnut, green plum, and cedar. Lucky is a very warm, woodsy fragrance. By sweater fragrance, I mean fall weather. You can imagine lounging by a fire in your favorite sweater or hoodie, hanging out with family, and engaging in various family-oriented activities. It's a great fall fragrance with decent longevity, and the dry down will leave you wanting more of one of my favorite notes when done right, and that is grapefruit. Nestled within that warm, woodsy, always welcoming cedar and patchouli, an exciting and somewhat sensual duo. Number 4 in our fall pick fragrances is Bleu de Chanel, or what I like to call Gone with the Wind. No, I'm not referring to the longevity at all, but when I first wore this fragrance, my wife was like, "What is that you're wearing?" Because it reminds me of that one guy in Gone with the Wind. And I was like, "You mean Rhett Butler?" I was like, why does it remind you of him? And she said, "Well, not because the movie is old, but it makes me think of the elegance of maturity, kind of like the way he was with, frankly, my dear, I don't give a Bleu de Chanel." That was more like Sean Connery. Sean Connery. As for her statement of the elegance of maturity, I have to agree. It's a very good fall fragrance. And it features a lot of awesome notes like nutmeg, ginger, sandalwood, patchouli, mint. There's mint in there. There's jasmine, grapefruit, citrus, vetiver, and incense, of course. And for the woods, there's cedar and pink pepper, or what I like to call spicy rose, because it is very fresh, spicy. I really like Bleu de Chanel, and it would have ranked a lot higher had its longevity not been a little bit more subdued. It is almost a skin scent, and if you do want it to last all day, you're going to have to spray it several times. On the positive side though, those notes of cedarwood and patchouli and vetiver are as good on dry down as they are at freshet, which is a significant nod to its quality. I love a good vanilla note in a fragrance, but the scales can tip from being overbearing to well done very quickly. It is my opinion that our number 3 fall fragrance gets it right. Xerjoff Naxos 1861. 1861 features citrus, lavender, cinnamon, jasmine, honey, a nice tobacco, and of course that great tonka bean that's a great binder. Vanilla note is a base note, but it also comes out in the very core of the beginning. So this is a very vanilla, so if you don't like vanilla, and just as a warning, if you don't like vanilla, you don't want to get this fragrance because it comes out in the top notes. Even though there's that citrus that creates that contrast, it's still there in the top notes. In the dry down, it comes out really strong and just stays. So vanilla is the primary note of Xerjoff's Naxos 1861. It's almost like, have you ever been taking a walk through a neighborhood and you catch a whiff of something that someone's cooking? Well, in this case, it would be like baking cookies. You get that almond and that strong vanilla. And in this case, it seems like in the middle of cooking, the chef stopped and just added more cinnamon and honey to spice it up. And while he was waiting on the cookies to bake, he stoked his pipe, and you got that tobacco scent intermingled in the middle near the end of that scent. But it's almost like each scent introduces you into the next note, kind of like a graduation. Although, you still have at the very core that vanilla note throughout it all. And in the dry down, that's the most powerful scent that comes through, is the vanilla, almost like the cookie dough vanilla. So again, if you don't like vanilla, you probably won't like Xerjoff's Naxos 1861. But it is a great fall fragrance just for that reason alone. 1861 is a longevity exemplar. You'll get 7, 8, 9 hours plus, because it is also an incense-based scent or fragrance. Again, it's got that very nice almondy vanilla flavor. And so you might want to just grab a half-gallon of milk and take it with you, because you're going to want to drink that with your cookies in this case. Our number 2 is a long-time favorite, and that is Club de Nuit Man by Armaf. Armaf is a known brand that just oozes style and authenticity. I mean, what more can you say about something that's proven itself in so many ways? Club de Nuit Man is an incense-based fragrances, and as such bespeaks wide open spaces. It can be a little cloistering or claustrophobic if used in an office environment. It's what I term a cubicle fragrance. Cubicle fragrance meaning that if you're in a small or close-knit area, it's going to make it feel smaller. If you're in a tight situation, it's going to make it feel tighter. So keep in mind your audience or your activity prior to using this fragrance as to where you're going, what you're going to be doing, whether or not it's appropriate for that. So again, if you're going to be on a hayride, if you're going to be doing a maze, if you're going to be some kind of fall activity like that, ice skating, things like that, those are all excellent. But if you're going to be stuck in a meeting, work meeting, if you're going to be stuck in a conference room, probably best to, if you're going to use it very lightly on the edges of your wrists, maybe near your collarbone somewhere, something that clothes might mute a little bit, because it's going to be a little bit stronger fragrance. Some awesome notes in Club de Nuit Man. You've got mandarin orange, mint, grapefruit, cinnamon, cloves, pepper, amber, patchouli, a lot of spicy notes. You got some leather mixed in there, and of course woods. The first time I smelled this fragrance, it reminded me of curling up by a fire with your favorite deeply involving book while you're waiting on your loved one to return from wherever they've gone. It's the spiciest on the list, and as such, it feels very much like a kissing cousin of Lucky. Even with the amber and the deep incense, it manages to remain light and fresh, so it doesn't feel like a heavy fragrance. The spiciness is not too hot, it's a perfect blend, a perfect balance. Again, keep in mind the 1-2 spray, the 3-4 spray saying, and you'll be great with this fragrance. It's an absolute winner. The balance in Club de Nuit Man is excellent. I love it. Before I announce my top pick of the 5 fall fragrances that we've been talking about today, I just want to say something a little bit about the timeline. Today is October 1st. As such, the trees haven't started changing at all. So I think it's going to be kind of a really quick transition from fall to winter. I apologize for the timeline between this video and my last. Ran into some issues with a virus on my computer. My editing application that I'm using did not like the native file that I'm using, which is an MOV file. So I went to find a codec for it on what was apparently a non-reputable website, got a virus. Long story short, several days of agonizing trying to fix things, finally got it fixed. And while I was fixing the issue, I kept getting blown up on my cell phone from an 800 number. I'm like, what in the world, who is this? So I finally called. It was Apple Tech Support, and I'm like, what do you guys need? And they're like, we don't need anything. And I'm like, you're calling me constantly every 10 minutes. There's literally like 15 calls in the span of a hour and a half. And they were like, it's probably a scam. And sure enough, the message that was left was referencing another 800 number for fast support, saying that my Apple ID had been breached and they were buying all this stuff, and to get it fixed I had to call this number. Well, while I was listening to the message, I got a call, answered it. It was a scammer, and of course I spent about the next 20 minutes having a lot of fun. Finally I had to go and I just hung up. But they are called fast support, and if you do run into that, please stay away. Do not do what they tell you to do. They tell you to open up a web browser and go to a certain website, and of course when you do that, it will open up your computer to intrusion, and they'll have all your stuff, all your meaningful passwords and your credit card numbers stored online and things like that. They get into the registry of your computer. So just a word of warning. So enough about that. Back to the important stuff. Number 1 pick of top 5 fall fragrances. My number 1 pick is Dolce & Gabbana K. It features Italian citrus, cinnamon, incense, pepper, very fresh kind of pepper, and spicy, tobacco, woodsy cedar, Indian sandalwood. Dolce & Gabbana for men, I mean, wow. There's really nothing that I don't like about this fragrance. While it's a bit of a play it safe fragrance, it blends together great, it plays together really excellently. Like one note introduces the other note, and it doesn't feel like a dichotomy or like an incongruity. Like some incongruities are good if it's a contrast, Like if you got the spice, if you got a sweet fragrance and you got a spicy, and they blend, well together, then that's a good contrast. But there's no really contrast like that, and it's just a smooth blend from one to the other, one note to the other. Think in your mind right now of your favorite personality, whether it's a TV or radio personality. What are the qualities that you like about that person? And think about those qualities graduating from when they were younger, like a teenager, into adulthood, and then maturing. And they just get more serious and more focused, and they polish those qualities, and you like them even better. That's what Dolce & Gabbana for Men feels like. D&G Men's spicy, woodsy side makes it the perfect accoutrement whether you're planning a bit more of an intimate date with your significant other, or whether you're grabbing an axe and going to chop 15 cords of wood. It's at home regardless of your activity, and anyone within your radius for more than 5 to 10 minutes is going to pay you a compliment for this fragrance. Mark my words. And if they don't, let me know in the comments below, and I personally will compliment you. Stay tuned for October for Studio Scents. We have a lot of fun that's going to be happening, a lot of great reviews coming up. We have a panel of teenagers going to give their thoughts on the fragrances for the younger audience, what they think of what's out there now, and what they feel is needed. That's going to be a fun video to watch. So if you're a teenager, if you have teenagers, or you're just interested in what the younger audience thinks about fragrances, stay tuned for that. We have a giveaway that's going to be coming up about mid-month, and just look for more content coming up from week to week. I'm going to try to release something every other day this month and really push for those reviews, because we've got a lot of fragrances coming up in the next several months. New ones as well as twists on old, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. It was exciting to bring to you my 5 favorite fall fragrances. Yes, 5. If you disagree with any of my choices, please let me know in the comments below. Tell me what your fall fragrances are, what you've got lined up this year, and what you've enjoyed in the past. Thank you so much for your time. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. My name is Tommy with Studio Scents. I'll see you next time.